Thank you, Megan. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on the December DAC Monthly Webcast. I'm Jennifer Stafford, the Director in the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support. And we're so happy that you're here with us today. We hope that you are joining us, that you're safe, you're happy, you're healthy, and that you are ready for the holidays. We have several from the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support with us today. First, we have Chris Williams, consultant in our division, and she's going to talk with us about some details, some long-awaited details on access and alternate access testing for our English learners. We are also joined by Kevin O'Hare. He's going to bring with us to us some information and resources on the alternate assessment and some instructional resources that are very valuable for us. Shara Savage is also with us. She has the end of course exam information as well as ACT information for preparation for the Spring 21 administration. And I'll end the day today with our conversation on updates from the Kentucky Board of Education's regular meeting on December 2nd. Pam Powers is also with us. She's taking your questions. So if you do have questions today, please email dacinfo@education.ky.gov. And we'll pause along the way to take your questions and provide any information updated that we have at this point. Helen Jones, the program manager in our division, is also here with us running the PowerPoint presentation for you today. So you can see this is a team effort. We are glad to be here with you and providing the most up-to-date information. And at this time, I will turn it over to Chris Williams for information on access and alternate access.
Thank you, Jennifer. Let's talk about our access and alternate access for Yale's window. We have moved that window. And so we'll go through the whole schedule with you, and we'll talk about the pre-testing, during testing, and also our post-testing for access. And so this is going to change from what we originally had sent out back in the back-to-school training back in August. So now our pre-testing, let's look at the pre-testing things that we have. Helen, go back. There you go. What we have is because even though the schedule had changed, and our test window has changed, there were some things that did not change on our original schedule. And the first thing that did not change is that, you were on December 3rd last week, you received your test materials from in the districts, and so those came to your districts, and you had to sign for those. And you also want to make sure that you do keep those secure until the test window begins. And some of the things that you could be as a DAC could be going through and looking at those particular materials, because you should have received your materials for your paper materials for your for alternate access, and then you also should have received your kindergarten materials in your kits if you ordered those back in October, which we had that window, and we completed that particular task. And so then everything was shipped, and also when that deadline ended in October for your materials, we also had, we sent DRC the file to be able to give you your pre-ID labels for your students. And so those came in your shipment. You didn't have to order those. And then also December 3rd, also opened up WIDA AMS, which is our WIDA assessment management system. And that's where you will see your students already pre-populated for you into test sessions. There will be generic test sessions, and so you don't have to do anything. They're already ready to go. All you will have to do is, as it gets closer to the test window, You want to make sure you go in there and look at that. You can be looking at that now. And then also closer to the window, you want to make sure if any of your students have changed, that you would just remove them from a test session. And then, because you can't delete any students out of WIDA AMS once they're already there. And then if you have some students who were not, because they came, after the ordering window back in October, then you can add those students into WIDA AMS, and you would have to do that manually. And there will also be training too that will be on the Access page to be able to assist you on that test setup and how to go in and add a new student to that. You also want to look at your students and their materials. If there are any materials that when you're inventorying those, you want to inventory those now to see if there's any discrepancies. If there's any discrepancies, you want to make sure you file that in WIDA AMS. And people have said, Chris, what about ordering additional materials? Well, you want to you won't be ordering any student who will be testing online. You would just add those students into WIDA AMS into a test session. If you've got students who need paper materials, such as for our kindergarten kids or alternate access, or our accommodated materials, because we do have accommodated materials of Braille and large print for our students. And so you just want to make sure that as it gets closer to that test window, you can order those materials for your students, because you don't want to order now, because it's, as you can see on this schedule, our window will not open now for access until March 1st, and that will go to April 23rd. So, that's a long time now to make sure to keep your materials secure. Also, you can, like I said, go into WIDA AMS and look at your students who have already been, who are already in the system, and be looking over those students and making sure all of those students are in there. And then if you've got to add any, you could add them closer to the test window, and then order additional materials. And then we're going to get into when are you going to ship those materials? Because if you notice, our original window that we had was January 6th through February 17th. So that changes when we start on March 1st now. That'll give you, more time to do these activities, as well as create your test schedules that you're going to need for both, if you're going to be in person, whether you're going to be, have a hybrid model, or you're going to be, if you've got students who are, are at home and receiving all their instruction. We'll have more information for you for those different scenarios. And also if you're, because we have a long window for access, you normally have a 6-week window, but we have extended it longer. So to give you more time to get things accomplished and be ready, and to get your test schedules ready for your students. Also, if you need, if you need to be able to go in and, have more people to administer the access, there's still that Google form that you will go in and that I sent to every district assessment coordinator back in July. And if you came in after July, I had also sent it to you as well, if you were new. And so you can, that is still open for you to add any. And I have been working diligently on getting all of those access accounts for you as they're coming into the spreadsheet. So just keep on, adding more people, getting your staff ready for this upcoming window. And then you will be shipping those materials starting April 7th, May 7th. You'll ship those materials back to DRC. which normally we usually ship those, around the end of April. So just keep in mind that these deadlines have changed. And so now it'll be May 7th that you will ship you'll want to make sure all your materials are shipped and at DRC by that deadline. And then you will, normally we have our reporting data validation. That means, once testing's over with, DRC opens up, which is Data Recognition Corporation, opens up in WIDA AMS and allows you to do what we call a data validation on the demographic information before your reports are printed and shipped to you. So now that pre-reporting data validation will be starting now on May 27th through June 11th. And then we will have, once that window closes and you've made all the changes necessary to the demographic information, also that's the time you can be able to, make any changes. If you've got duplicate students in there, students with 2 records, you want to make sure that those records are merged together into one, so that way the student can get an overall composite score. And when your reports will be online for you in WIDA AMS starting June 29th. And then you'll see that we do not have a deadline yet for the printing of those materials when they will be shipped to you. And we don't have the last, after you receive your reports, we also have what we call another post-reporting data validation, so that data has not been, finalized yet. So DRC is still working with numerous of states because we are over 40, there are over 40 some states in the consortium that gives this assessment. I believe it's 42 to be exact. And so, that is a lot, and there's people that have been shifting their windows. So as soon as we get those other dates, we will share those out in a Monday DAC email for you. So this just lets you know, here's the window. The next slide, Helen. We also have, like I said, all of your materials, all of your WIDA AMS for test setup, your additional materials opened all on December 3rd. And then we'll also be releasing trainings for you for access for this upcoming year, and have all of that information with the new test window in that as well for that last training on that overview training, which is a huge one. We also have trainings on the test setup, on user accounts, and then we already had one that was already posted for the ordering window. That was sent back in October, but prior to that, when you were ordering materials in WIDA AMS. So just keep it in mind that when you do an additional order, you want to do that closer, like I said, to the test window now. So you don't want to start now, because those students are the most mobile population, and they can be moving from one district to the next. So you want to wait a little bit closer to time to be able to add your students into it, into WIDA AMS, and then order those additional materials. And then once you, they're going to have additional kits for you for kindergarten for that paper assessment. And so don't hesitate to order additional kits if you need those, because remember, you're going to have to be able to wipe those down and, clean those between test sessions, and remember, though, when you're testing your alternate access students and your kindergarten students, those are one-to-one. You cannot group administer those, so that's going to take a little bit more time to test those students. So if you need more additional materials, please do that closer to the window. And then if you have not ordered materials, you missed that. We did have several districts who did not order during the October window. So you want to go ahead and start putting in some orders for those at this point. And so just email me when you get ready to order, and the permissions will be set for you, and you'll be good to go. And what you'll want to do is you'll log into WeedAMS, and you'll go to where you go to materials. You'll go to, instead of doing the ordering, you'll go to the additional order one to be able to do that now. And if you need any assistance of doing that, because it will not be like it was back in the, in October, where it's kind of laid out a little bit easier for you. But you should have received an email from DRC letting you know, how to go in and what you need to order, if you need to order any kindergarten, if you need to order any accommodating materials or alternate assessment, access materials for your students with significant cognitive disabilities. You'll be able to do that. And then also we'll have lots of, the trainings to be updated for you to be able to share with your districts. And then we'll also have some guidance documents for the different scenarios of what your school is like when you get back in, after the holidays, and we'll see what that's going to look like. So we have different scenarios of what you can do, what you can't do. And remember, with access, it has to be done in person. There is no remote administration of access. And so we'll have guidance on how to do the testing for you at a later date. And you can, like I said, you can go ahead and still now and be getting your staff ready, be looking at those different ways that you've been providing instruction already to the students. And then we will also update on the KD website, we'll update the access page to put in the new testing window for you, as well as the trainings will be updated. And then we will go into the WEDA website. And if you noticed on the Kentucky, we have a specific page on the WEDA website underneath the members page. So you'll click on Kentucky, and you'll be able to see our updated schedule on that as well. And then any of our checklists, those will all be updated for you on that for both paper and for online. And then our last thing we want to discuss is rosters. Rosters, we will have a training for rosters for you, and we'll let you know. So, with the access window not starting till March 1st, so now rosters will not open until then for your access, and your alternate access rosters will open during that time. And then those will be blank like they were last year. And so you will just add any student who needs a non-participation, and we will have guidance for you on those particular non-participation reasons for access at a later date when we get ready for our training prior to it opening in March. So Pam, that concludes our session on access and alternate access. Are there any questions? I can't hear you, Pam. I think you're on mute.
Yes, I am. If I remember to turn on the camera, I can't remember to unmute myself.
It's okay.
Okay, we've had a few questions come in. Will the students be updated in WeedAMS before the beginning of the new test window?
The students will not be updated at this point. They are in there. I can see if that's an option, but we have not had that option before. But that doesn't mean that we wouldn't have it this year. I can always ask. Usually we don't, so that's why I said all you would have to do was just remove any student from any, just don't add them to any test session. And so, and then once the window would close, those students would not be included into the data validation. So.
Okay, and another question's come in. How can we handle the students for testing if the parents absolutely refuse to bring them in?
We'll have guidance for you on those particular scenarios, and remember that this also is federally required as well as a state required assessment, and so we will parents usually can refuse they can refuse services but not the assessment. So we will have some guidance that for those if, and we may have some different non-participations. And so that'll all be in the training, and we'll have to discuss that, internally and be able to share that out with you when those trainings are ready and closer to that window.
And if we can't test those students, will schools and districts be penalized? And if so, do we have any idea how?
Pam, that we'll have to wait on that particular question. I do want you to know that we are looking at all the different, scenarios that you have about testing students, and then if we do know that is one of the things that are on our radar that we are discussing, and that has to be an internal discussion. And so we will be working on that particular piece, as well as, we have to also look at the new administration to see, when that takes place in, late January, to see, what kind of things that are going to be available to the states. Both for, testing and for accountability. So stay tuned for that particular question, because like I said, I will give you everything I know at this point, and that's the best I can do at this time. But like I said, if you have any additional questions, and maybe after this presentation you remember something, just go ahead and send that in an email to me, or you can give me a call, and I can make sure that those get addressed for our trainings that we have for you.
That's all right, Chris. Thank you for that.
We have one more question.
Okay, just let me, Pam, just respond to that question about schools being held. And I think that part of that question is about accountability. Just the decision-making to postpone the window, there were a few principles that were used to decide on postponing or delaying the window. And that was to see what evolved with the pandemic. With the postponement of the opening of the access window, that allows for the pandemic to evolve. The vaccine is coming. We know that a few of our educators will be able to have that, hopefully by that March timeframe. We know that the governor had a discussion with superintendents last Friday and provided guidance and directions to have a prioritized list of individuals within the district that could have the possibility of getting that vaccine. So we're going to see with the delay how that evolves. In addition, we have leadership at the federal level that is also going to change at the end of January. So with that, we are anticipating more guidance from the U.S. Department of Education shortly after that time. So whether it is on testing or whether that is on accountability from the U.S. Department of Education. So postponing or delaying the opening of our test window allows for those things to play out. and to provide additional time for the state to receive guidance on both testing and accountability. So we're anticipating again that we'll receive as a department additional guidance. And when we do receive that guidance, it'll be shared with district assessment coordinators in a very timely manner. So again, we want to provide the most up-to-date information, and Chris has just provided you the what we have at this point. In the DeVos letter, and that's all that we've received from the department, was for states to prepare for testing. And that's what we've done. So we are ready, we're prepared for assessments across our assessment systems. With this delay, it gives the department at the U.S. Department of Education more time to provide additional guidance once that new leadership takes their seats there. So again, we have the preparations made, we have the plans for, but we're again waiting on additional guidance from them. So hopefully we'll have more to share closer to that time. So Pam, I think that you may have additional questions for Chris.
I have one last question. When can we expect KDE's Access training materials to become available?
Like I said, Jennifer, also is saying, we are working on, getting information, from the federal government too on guidance for us. So as soon as we can get that information, we'll be able to send that out to you. And so, more information will be sent out either in a Monday DAC email or a special DAC email, depending on when, that guidance is ready. So. Thank you, Pam.
That's all we have right now.
Okay. Thank you, Pam.
Thanks.
Now I'm going to turn it over to Kevin.
All right. Well, thanks, Chris, and good morning, everyone. So typically I would be talking with you about something related to assessment and accountability, but the information that we're going to discuss today is critical steps, or you might even say the building blocks that lead up to a successful assessment, and also some tremendous progress when it comes to future accountability. So I'd like to take a moment to discuss the release of some amazing instructional resources that our low incidence consultants from your regional cooperatives have been working on since well before summer even. They coincided with this from back in the spring and really dug in the summer. The number of hours they've invested in these documents and resources is really mind-blowing to think about. They've involved their content consultants internally. They've worked with consultants here at the department. They've taken part in many discussions, both internally and externally, as well as at some national levels, to make these resources available to teachers all across the state. So they did all this while still doing the things they were tasked to do each and every day. And so I want to commend them personally for the work that they've done on these great materials. And this is not going to stop here. They're going to continue to come together and collaborate and hopefully continue to develop many more materials to come. So on November 23rd, I released in the Monday DAC email information on the Kentucky Alternate Assessment Cooperative site. Part of that site, the Kentucky Academic Standards Alternate Assessment Targets, or you may see the abbreviated version on there, KASAA targets, instructional supports, provide a thorough breakdown of the standards and target support resources. Now, I do want to remind everyone listening that we do not have standards for the Kentucky Alternate Assessment. We have alternate assessment targets that link directly to the Kentucky Academic Standards. So there is not a different set of standards for alternate assessment. It's the Kentucky Academic Standards that have links or direct ties to that standard, which make that an alternate assessment target. So that's a question I often get, and so I just want to clarify every chance I can the difference in the two. But back to the site, this site offers more than just direct standards for instructional resources. You can also find links to videos explaining how to use the KentuckyStandards.org website, which is amazing. You can find links to videos explaining the KDE EdCast videos and the standards implementation webcast videos shared that's been shared by our great team and the Office of Teaching and Learning. And that's just to name a few. You know, they're continuing to improve and build on these. And so if you haven't checked this out, I would encourage you to do so. Another amazing support found on this site is a breakdown of the Kentucky Academic Standards alternate assessment target progressions. So it's a more in-depth common link between standards across grade bands and you know, just showing that significance of the instructional bonds from one grade to the next. You know, if as noted, if you haven't visited, haven't checked these out, visit the November 23rd Monday DAC email, or on November 24th, we shared out in a special alternate assessment email the link to these sites. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think this is, you know, the first step of many in getting some critical instructional resources out to our teachers. And like I said, they have our low incidence consultants have done an amazing job in putting this together. So kudos to them. And the last resource is one that the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, or OSEAL, along with the Office of Assessment and Accountability, partnered with our vendors at UK to develop. The resource guide for attainment task was released originally on November 30th as part of the Monday DAC email. And then yesterday, you may have received a special alternate assessment email that talked about the resource guide for attainment task. And in that resource guide, it's going to provide information on how to make adaptations to the attainment task while continue to remain compliant with testing protocol. You'll find pictures of general terms that may be used in test administrations for every content area that'll be assessed. And we encourage teachers to use these pictures and to work with their students to teach the meanings behind the pictures and utilize this process during instruction so that students are familiar with the pictures prior to testing. And it also includes instructional information based on general assessment protocols. So, you know, a special thank you goes out to Tanya Sharp in the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, as well as our friends at UK for the collaboration that went into the development of this piece. And the last thing I would like to do after sharing these resources with you is the last thing, definitely not least, is I would like to thank each of you for all that you do. You probably don't hear it enough, but please know that everything you do is valued and appreciated. I know the holiday season is quickly approaching, and to say it's been different is, you know, probably an understatement. But I just hope that you and your family are safe and healthy, and you have a well-deserved break and a little bit of time to relax. You know, in this holiday season, and you know, we've continued the practice of these meetings and hopefully been able to get some critical information out to you guys. And I know there's still a lot of questions that are unanswered, and we're trying our best to get those out as soon as we can. But we just appreciate all that each and every one of you do. So happy holidays from our family to yours. Well, Pam, that's all I have on these instructional resources. Is there any other questions or any questions for me that's popped up?
No questions for you, Kevin.
Either I've done a really good job or I put everybody to sleep. So
you did a really good job.
That's what I'm going to go with too. All right. So now I want to turn things over to Ms. Shara Savage to provide us with an update on end of course. So all right, Shara, take it away.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. And I have some EOC updates and reminders that I would like to share with you all today. The first end of course EOC testing window will end this Friday, December the 11th. And we do ask that no exams be administered after after tomorrow, December the 11th, without prior approval from KDE. The EOC shipping deadline is Thursday, December the 17th. The DAC or the designee should return the testing materials on or before the established deadline, if at all possible. If not, let me know. All secure testing booklets must be returned to KDE at the address shown on the screen there. Attention to Shara Savage, myself, Department of Education, 300 Salary Boulevard in Frankfort, Kentucky, 40601. Districts and schools are responsible for paying their return postage, and you can choose your return shipping method, but we do ask that the shipping provider enable the tracking and provide a tracking number for you. OAA will process answer documents once the testing window has closed. So this is a new process for us, so please allow 6 weeks for processing. We hope to get those out to you sooner, but please allow at least 6 weeks till we get the process underway. And so once that is complete, DACs will receive a summary report of all tested students and their scores by content area at the completion of the scoring for each testing window. Individual score reports with the name of the student and the scale score will be listed on those reports. And KDE will continue to use the established EOC cut scores. So now we'll move on to the ACT, the Spring 2021 administration. So throughout the 2020-21 testing cycle, OAA and ACT are partnering to offer DACs and testing staff open office hours. DACs, BACs, TACs, and TCs will be able to ask questions and receive assistance during this time on the ACT state administration. Please extend the invitations to all your testing staff. And the next office hour will be this afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A regular Microsoft Teams meeting will be the platform for this meeting. The invitation for this upcoming meeting this afternoon was sent in the Monday DAC email. If you can't find it or you need the link, just give me a quick email and I'll get that link sent over to you. Okay, and then in January, we are going to move from a once a week to move from once a month, to a once a week office hour for you. So in January, the office hours will be Friday, January the 7th at 11 Eastern Standard Time. Then Thursday, January the 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then Thursday, January 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then on Friday, January 29th at 11 Eastern Standard Time. And I just want to iterate that, you know, it's for you, the DACs, of course, your BACs, your TACs, and your TCs. So I highly encourage you to extend those invitations to all your testing staff. And these future office hours, the invitations will be shared in upcoming DAC emails. Okay, so now we can move on and talk about ACT's, the requesting accommodations. So as a reminder, the TAA system has migrated to success.act.org. Please ensure that testing staff has access to the TAA system on the new website. If testing staff has not yet requested accommodations and supports, ACT and KDE highly recommend that this activity be completed as soon as possible. Now, we do still have some districts that have not accessed the Trusted Agent Code. So if you have not accessed this code, please do so as soon as possible. The Trusted Agent Access Code must be sent to the superintendent. While ACT's business rules require the code to be sent to the district superintendent, the superintendent can send that code to anyone that he or she sees fit to serve as the trusted agent for the district. It is important for districts to have a comprehensive discussion about the individuals who should be granted trusted agent access, given the sensitive nature of the information and the data they will have access to. Because it's not only the state data, they also have access to the national as well. If your district needs to have the trusted agent access code resent to your superintendent via email, you can email myself, of course, but ultimately Scott Calvert at ACT is the go-to person for that. So you can email him at scott.calvert@act.org, and I can place that over in the chat or email me, and I can give you that if you have trouble accessing that. The individual who is established as the trusted agent can send invitations to individuals to become the TAC coordinator, access the online reporting system, and much more. The TAC coordinator is needed per school, and ACT does encourage schools to appoint 2 TACs per school. Now, the published deadline to request accommodations and support for the upcoming spring 2021 state administration is January the 15th. However, ACT's review and approval process typically takes multiple business days. So we encourage you to work to complete this activity now to ensure that testing staff has the opportunity to provide additional information ACT may require for approval. Now, ideally, to guarantee this process is complete by the deadline and students receive a college reportable score, testing staff should complete this critical task by December the 18th before the Christmas holiday, especially, like I said, especially with the holiday break that it's upon us. So please share this information with your school testing staff to ensure that they are aware of the process for requesting accommodations and supports. Okay, and so if we can talk about the ACT Site Readiness preparations. So as a reminder, we wanted to let you know we are highly encouraging districts and schools to use paper and online during the initial March 9th and the makeup March 23rd testing window. This gives 6 testing days per window. With the use of online testing flexibility, it will aid districts and schools with bringing in those small groups that we ultimately think that's going to be needed in the spring. So for schools and districts planning to administer the ACT online, it is time to start preparing the online site readiness activities. The deadline to complete site readiness process is January 22nd of 21, but I encourage you, and so does ACT, to go ahead and start that process now. In an effort to simplify the online testing process, proctor caching is no longer a requirement for administering the ACT online for most districts. However, a system check is recommended to determine if proctor caching should be set up. To determine if proctor caching is needed at the school or district, a mock administration should be run to evaluate the system requirements and performance. As a first step, it is necessary for the DAC or the BAC to appoint the technical coordinator and create a user account for him or her in Pearson Access Next. A technical coordinator is for each school is required. Directions for creating a user account can be found in Pearson's Access Next user guide. The technical coordinator should run through all the activities outlined in the technical guide the technical coordinator checklist, and the mock administration guideline. Complete these activities now to ensure a successful online administration. At any point, the technical coordinator doubts the online testing can be accomplished, the technical coordinator should advise the test coordinator to switch to the paper administration prior to January 22nd to ensure receipt of materials. ACT will not switch the administration to paper, so it will be up to the test coordinator to complete that activity. So that wraps up my reminders and updates. Pam, do I have any questions?
Yes, we've had a couple of questions come in.
Okay.
Did you say that superintendent should have already received an email regarding the trusted agent?
Yes, those were sent out earlier in the year, so they should have already received that. So if they've not, you can, like I said, email Scott Calvert or myself, and we will assist you in that.
And we've had another one come in. The student who did not get to take the ACT during the 1920 school year are to take it this year during the spring state test. Do I need to assign that test date to those students in my TAA accounts as well as my juniors for this year?
So if they did not test in the spring of 2021 and they did not test in fall of I'm getting my years mixed up here. If they didn't test in spring of 20 or fall of 20, then, and if they were on that initial SDU file, then yes, they will be eligible to test this spring. Now TAA, if they had their accommodations already approved, it may be just a matter of moving that test date, but I would ask them to either call ACT, email myself, or come to the office hour this afternoon to get ACT's guidance on that.
Okay. And that's all the questions we have so far.
Okay, great. Thank you, Pam. And
Anytime.
now I will turn this over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Sharon, Kevin, and Chris for all the good information. A lot of preparation going into spring 21 assessments. At this point, I'd like to switch to an update on the Kentucky Board of Education December 2nd regular meeting. During that meeting, the Office of Assessment and Accountability had two topics on that. The first of which was the draft regulation to 703 KAR 5:270, which is Kentucky's school accountability regulation. In preparation for that meeting, there were several resources that were created for the board that may be useful to district assessment coordinators. Those include the draft regulation with amendments. And the slide here, if you look at the PowerPoint presentation, each of these resources are linked for you. So you have the link to the regulation. You can see that with the regulation, there are strikeouts and additions to the regulation. So you can see where those amendments are currently. There was also a PowerPoint presentation that may be useful to district assessment coordinators as you are trying to communicate to your district leaders and others in the community. You also have a summary of changes to the amendment, as well as a link to the Kentucky Board of Education meeting. On the media portal, you will have a link to the whole meeting. And if you want to tune in to the accountability discussion, it begins around the 2-minute 54 minute, or the 2-hour 54-minute mark. So if you want to fast forward through it and to hone in on that accountability regulation summary or discussion, then you can listen to the board's discussion. During that presentation, Rhonda Sims, our Associate Commissioner, Kevin Hill, and myself had a really good back and forth with the board on the accountability regulation. Helen, if you'll move to the next slide, you'll see that there were a number of changes to the regulation. So if you click that link, you're going to see a lot of strike-throughs and additions, and that's a lot of changes specifically to the technical language so that the language aligns with the statute. Senate Bill 158 changed a lot of the terminology within the accountability system. So a lot of the changes that you'll see are alignment to those technical terms. For example, the indicator for reading and math was previously proficiency, and now it's state assessment results for reading and math. So types of changes that align those technical terms are throughout the regulation. Another change that you'll see in the regulation is the alignment of language on dual credit to our actual process. So previously, the Office of Career and Technical Education has been collecting the dual credit. There's no change in the process, or there's no change in the identification of dual credit, but the change within the regulation aligns to the actual implementation that the Office of Career and Technical Education is doing. So we cleaned up that language just a little bit. The other recommendations that are within the regulations align to the topics that we've discussed before here on this webcast. Specifically on status and change indicators and that 5x5 colored table, the weights for combining the performance, the flexibilities with the EL progress learners, and the minimum N. There are a number of recommendations on that those topics are included within the regulation. Also, Section 5 is amended and connects reporting to our consolidated state plan. So you can see that those pieces within the reporting have been changed. So we just want to align that again to our consolidated state plan, because there's a lot of negotiation that goes back and forth with the U.S. Department of Education on that plan. And so you'll see where those reporting pieces are aligned to that state plan. Now, you'll notice that there are no 5x5 colored tables within the regulation. And again, those are pieces that are negotiated for the ESSA plan. So you again, a summary of changes on the school accountability regulation are within those documents. Helen, if you'll move to the next slide. I've mentioned before that the Kentucky Board of Education considered moving their policy or changing their policy around first and second reads of regulations. And indeed they did take that step that the board could decide not to have a read on all regulations. Now, the regulations that would not have two reads, or that would only have to have one read, are those regulations that are more technical changes, or that don't have to have a lot of discussion with shareholders. For example, if there were just a regulation that just had a technical change or a technical terminology change, something that didn't have a huge impact, or that was required by some federal or state statute that is not negotiable. Those type of regulations would only have the first read. With the accountability regulation and other regulations that are more wishing the board that wishes to have more discussion on that, that needs more consideration from shareholders, then the board can decide to have 2 reads of a regulation. So with the accountability regulation, the board, upon LSAC, the Local Superintendent Advisory Council's recommendation, did decide to have 2 reads of the school accountability regulation. So the timeline for the accountability regulation moving forward will, you can see here that December had the first read of the amendments, and then it will move into a second read in February. The public comment period, the formal public comment period, will then be March and April. We'll go back to the Kentucky Board of Education with a statement of consideration in June, and then move into the legislative committees and the legislative process in the summer of 21. So this coming summer, we'll move into those. So the timeline, again, is reflective of the second read of the regulation. LSAC considered the fact that they didn't have a lot of time to review the amendments to the regulation, where the department had presented to the Kentucky Board of Education beginning in August. We gave multiple presentations in August, and then in October, then we moved into the November working session. So the board had heard the conversation on the accountability system multiple times, but LSAC had not, and they requested that the board have 2 reads, and so the board supported that recommendation from LSAC for having 2 reads of this regulation. So we'll, at this point, moving forward and taking the amendments to our advisory councils. This week so far, we have talked with the Principals Advisory Council. Yesterday, Jenny Larkin spoke with the Parent Advisory Council, and today Helen Jones is going to present to the Teachers Advisory Council. So these advisory committees have a lot of good input and insight on the accountability regulation. So we'll continue with gathering feedback on the accountability regulation. And we've talked again with SCAC. We talked to SCAC on the regulations back in November before the December board meeting. And then, of course, we had 2 meetings with LSAC within days of each other. So multiple groups are being consulted on the amendments to the regulation. And then, of course, our district assessment coordinators are reading it and trying to understand it, because I'm getting emails and questions about the implementation of it. So we've got a lot of good people critically looking at it, and that helps so much, because in the end, with everybody coming together with feedback and input, it makes a better regulation for everyone. Helen, if you'll move on. So the second topic that the Office of Assessment and Accountability had with the Kentucky Board of Education was on the assessments. Again, multiple resources were developed for the Kentucky Board of Education on assessments. There was a comparison chart of requirements that states must adhere to. For Kentucky, we have state statute as well as federal statutes that we must abide by in the development of the assessment system. So that comparison chart is a good presentation of the regulations or the statutorily required pieces toward the assessment system. Another resource, again, was the PowerPoint presentation that was used during the assessment portion. And the link there is on the media portal to the regular session. The assessment discussion was right after the accountability discussion. So the assessment discussion started about the 3-hour, 50-minute mark. So if you start with with the accountability discussion, you can go right through accountability and just move right into the assessment discussion. So it'll just take you about maybe a couple hours to watch both of those sessions. Helen, if you'll move on. The discussion at the board was on the assessment that I mentioned earlier, that we had the Secretary DeVos letter that told states to plan for spring 21 assessments, that we as a department are currently working with all of our assessment vendors on being prepared for assessments in 21. As Chris just provided guidance on access testing and postponing that testing window and delaying the opening. Kevin O'Hare is working with the University of Kentucky on our alternate assessment program. We're working across all of our assessment systems on the approach to take with this spring. We are currently with the board in discussions about not only spring 21 assessments, but also long-term plans for the assessment system. The current board has desires to review the assessment and make changes to it. There are also legislators who are interested in the assessment system, and we've seen some pre-filed legislation from representatives that have some impact on the department and the approach in making studies and bringing educators together to review the assessment systems. So to that end, the department is working with several partners in looking at the future of the assessment system in Kentucky. We have work beginning in mid-December, actually next week, that will look at possible ways for changing the assessment system. We want to hear from experts in the field that would guide the conversation, that would include the Center for Assessment, which is Brian Gong. We also are partnering with the Center for Innovation in Education. For those of you who've been around and heard of Gene Wilhoit, this is his new collaboration at the Center for Innovation that's housed at the University of Kentucky. So he's collected a group of experts in testing who are very interested in providing guidance to the state on the next and the future assessment system. We'll also work with the Office of Support and Improvement in the Division of Innovation and Districts of Innovation. David Cook has led a group for several years on innovative assessment systems, and there are districts that are part of that program. So we want to engage that work and in the conversation about future assessment systems. So Helen, if you'll go to the next slide. So that's toward the future. And what we're doing in 21 is working with our assessment vendor. We're working with Pearson to develop this assessment specifically for spring 21. That is more of a transition type of assessment to some new or future type of assessment system. So with the development for this spring, with the understanding that the students have not been in person instruction for the whole entire year, that it could possibly be that they're not in person full time, that there could be a hybrid model of in-person and non-traditional instruction. We're asking Pearson to develop a shorter form, one that could be easily administered to students, and to populate the form from previously used items that would code to the new standards. So when we think about reading and math, specifically, looking at the items that we've used on prior forms that align to the new standards so that we can get some type of comparison possibly, or look back to the performance of students from the past to spring of 21 and see how that we can use some old scales or possibly provide normative data on the student performance for this year. So again, we're working to enhance the survey questions that include potential questions about the types of situations or in learning environment the students have had this year. So again, all of those plans are going to be for our K-Prep assessments. And we noted for the board that that plan will not meet all the technical guidelines from the Every Student Succeeds Act. But again, we're looking toward this transition assessment that'll be just one year, and then move toward the future assessments. Helen, if you'll skip to, I think, the previous slide. The next one, 22. So again, we just want to work with our assessment partners to look at the innovative and different types of assessment systems for our students in Kentucky. And that, again, this list our partners who are excited to work with us on that. So lots of exciting new information and possibilities for the future. Which reminds me that that today is our December DAC Monthly Webcast, and it was 5 years ago this month that we started the DAC Monthly Webcast. We had, over the years, we've seen many changes. And, I think it's a good time to reflect back at the end of the year, to reflect back on the year and what's happened in the past. And I can think about so many changes that we've had to the assessments. 5 years ago, we were administering the Stanford 10. We had end of course assessments for all students at the high school level. Since that time, we've had many changes to the standards. So with changes to the standards, we've had to change the assessments, and we've had a number of field tests that have been very successful. 5 years ago, we had all paper testing with an exception of a little portion at high school, and we had a very successful online administration last spring. And so a lot of changes to the assessment. And then for accountability, we look at that, and there have been annual changes to the accountability system due to legislative changes. So, there's a lot has happened in the past 5 years. We've lost members of our precious OAA family, and we remember them at this time. We've had a number of retirements in the past 5 years that we miss them on a daily basis. We do have a precious member of our OAA family who is retiring. Many of you may know Roger Irvin. Roger has been with the Office of Assessment and Accountability at the Kentucky Department of Education since August of 1994. So I'll let that sink in just a minute. She came in 94, so he's been an integral part of OAA family for all of that time, and we're going to miss him. We're going to miss Roger as he leaves. He's taking history with him that he and only he knows, and so he's had an impact on the students of Kentucky. He's had an impact on our assessment and accountability systems since 1994. So we're going to miss him, and we wish him and his family the best of luck. Let me pause there, Pam. I was wondering if we have any questions from our DACs or those viewing.
We've had another question come in.
Okay.
What, with the proposed changes to K-Prep in 2021, will it be online or paper pencil?
All of the changes that we are undertaking toward the 21 assessments will be administered online. As you know, we had a very successful online administration and pilot in the spring of 20, right before the pandemic hit. And that was very, very successful. So we are moving forward with online assessments for K-Prep. With that being said, there will be paper for our accommodated students or students who need different types of paper accommodations. Those will be available as well. Pam, any others?
That's it.
Great. Well,
No
as
more.
Kevin said, we appreciate everything that our district assessment coordinators do. You all have had a tremendous change this year, especially with the impact of the coronavirus on our instructional systems. I've said it again. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The impact of what our education system is doing is phenomenal, and the changes that we have made in this time have been significant. Each of you all deserve a well-rested time off and away from the office. One thing that will remain consistent of all these changes, that the Office of Assessment and Accountability will be here for you and to support you always. We wish you nothing but the best in your holiday. Have a happy holiday. Have a healthy and safe holiday as well. We'll see you here in 2021. Thank you.